Welcome to PM Express, the London edition, sponsored by Abiam Productions and Abiam Institute of Technology, and also in conjunction with Multimedia. We're bringing you exclusives all across the continent. Now, this is fantastic. They have got two beautiful young men who are going to share their lifetime experiences. Now, if your child is not watching TV, you better call them to come and sit now, because this is something that will inspire change in whoever you think you are. These are men who, today you welcome them into your house and probably throw your daughters at them. But before, you wouldn't have touched them with their barge pole. And they say, we're going to share our story with you in an answer call. Folks, this is going to be one of the exciting interviews you've ever listened to. I'm going to introduce, from my immediate left is Prince Apiam Danso Ampoma. Prince, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And then to my far left is Christopher Dos Santos Danso. Now, Pastor Chris. Chris, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Now, first of all, let me say thank you very much, because not many people would open up like this. So I'm sure today's interview would inspire somebody and change someone for the positive. I'll start with you, Prince. Prince, how did you get into, if I may say, the bad boy life?
Well, you know, when I was a young child, a young boy, I grew up in the streets of Hackney, which is E5, the postcode where I'm from.
Okay.
And in that area of the elder guys, the big boys, who are running that particular area, that district, and they're doing all the sort of bad stuff, you know, and they need to get the young boys, you know, to come in and do some things. So at that particular time, I just finished school, and you know, I couldn't get a job or nothing like that. So they will come and say, you know, don't try and get a job. You know, if you come with us, can't you see the cars we're driving? You know, the watches we're wearing. You know, we can make you make fast, quick money. And that's how I entered, with a mindset that, you know, I'll go make a little money and leave. But I didn't know that that's not how the streets operates. Once you get inside, there's no leaving.
Wow. So then, I'll say, like, maybe your parents, mom and dad, were they not cautious, say, hey, you know, get up the streets and find a job? Or?
In the beginning, my parents didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
And then it got to a time where they knew that what I was doing, but they couldn't stop it.
It's too late.
Yes, it's too late. They couldn't stop it.
Was it dangerous? I mean, I know it's dangerous, but I mean, could you get away with it and just continue, or is there a risk of getting caught?
It's very dangerous. It's very your life is at stake. You know, you can't walk on the streets. You can't just walk to the shop just like that. No, when you're walking to the shop, you have to watch left, you have to watch right, you have to watch your back, you have to make sure that a car's not coming out for a drive-by. There's always someone out to stab you or get you. So it's very, very, very dangerous. You're never secure.
What kind of things were you involved in?
And when I first started off, you know, with petty crimes, you know, stealing cars, doing burglaries, you know, street robberies. You know, I'll go on a train, and because I'm bored, and I see a guy with a phone that I like, I'll just go and take his phone, you know. Or if you're wearing the trainers that I don't have, I'll make you take your trainers off on that train and take your trainers from you, you know, and your watch. Just rob guys for fun. So it became like a hobby.
I mean, this is UK, so I mean, viewers will be watching this from Ghana, and in Ghana the police is a bit far away, because by the time you call them and give them the directions, get to the plantain tree and turn left, get to the kiosk and turn right, you know, we'd have gone. But here you can easily give your postcode and say, look, this is where I'm having, you know, this is where I'm being robbed. Weren't the police, you know?
Yeah, you know, the police are there. You're right, and they're very active. But you know, we got to find out and know the ways of the police, how the system works, you know, a time frame. If you're going to do a robbery, you know, there's a certain time you have to make sure you do your robbery within this time and leave and get out, you know, before the police can arrive. And sometimes the police can come and meet you, and therefore you end up being in a chase or pursuit. You have to run, jump walls, I've hid under cars. You know, I've run into people's houses before, run through to the garden to get away. So sometimes they get there and you have to try and run, or you get caught, or sometimes they don't get there at all.
Wow, let me come to Chris. And as solemn as you look, I sometimes can't believe that, once upon a time you could have been rowdy, speaking to you off camera. And you're so, there's this calmness about you. I can't picture you doing anything other than being calm.
Wow. That's an honor. Thank you.
So what were you involved in?
Well, it's pretty much as my brother was just saying here. It's various areas, because if you talk about fraud, robberies, kidnappings, thefts, name them all. I've done a bit of everything. Drug dealing.
No, but like Prince. Prince is a bit bulky, and even now I'm scared of Prince. But you're on the lanky side. I mean,
Yes.
so if you turn up and said, "Oh, give me my wallet," I'm going to, get out of here. I'll give you my wallet.
I think that's what actually made me more dangerous, because I was not afraid to use a weapon on you. So I wouldn't intimidate you with my structure, but with what I have. So
Wow.
whether it's a gun, whether it's a knife, whatever it is, I'll put fear into you, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how big was the gang? If you were in a gang, how big was it?
The gang I was part of was actually in East London, which was one of the biggest gangs at the time, which was about 300 members.
Whoa.
Yeah, because it's spread over 2 cities, 2 towns. And I was amongst, let's say, the top guys of that gang. So as I said, it's more or less organized crime. It's not something that maybe you do out of a spurt. You have your personal crimes you commit,
Yeah.
but most of it is an organization. So you have leaders, you have people who are, divided into certain sectors. Those who are there to do the drug dealings, those who are focused on robberies, those who are focused on maybe music, those who are focused on other things, fraud, money laundering.
Chris, so how would it work? Would you have a bowl where everybody brings the spoils in, and then the gang would share? Let's say if I got £600 from somebody's wallet today, do I bring it to the gang so we put it in a bowl so we all share, or that's mine? And
Okay. Like I said, we have our personal ambitions and goals and things we want to do as individuals. But the gang I used to be in, the leaders actually had visions, ambitions that for the whole crew, the whole
Okay.
community that we were. And they'll tell you, for instance, by this time this year, we want to have our own studio. We want to have our own this. We want to have our own that. We want to raise this amount of money so that some of us will have maybe a house to be in. So so there are certain group goals that are set
So-
down, and you have your own personal ambitions as well.
I mean, was this the same for you? Or?
Yeah, with us it's like how we do it. If a group goes into a move,
You were definitely in a different gang.
yeah.
And I'm told your
gangs.
gangs were rival gangs.
Yes, our gangs
Yeah.
were rivals.
We
yeah.
would have met under different
on a different
circumstances.
circumstance.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
Yeah, so in where I came from, we have, as my brother was saying, the group has goals, things they would like to achieve, things they would like to get and receive and stuff like that. And definitely you have elders and youngers. And the youngers you have to respect. When the elders tell you to do this, you have to make sure you do it. You can't say no, otherwise you'll be punished for it. So there was an order, and as well as doing our petty crimes, we have different territory wars, whereby you go together and you go to another area. So let's say my area and him, we didn't get along. So if he had a problem with us, his crew will come to our territory, to our side, to either come with guns and knives, and there'll be a shooter or a stabbing, someone could be killed, just like that. That's what the sort of things that we used to do. And in terms of moves, getting money, how we split it, where I'm from, whoever goes on that particular business move is who will eat from that particular money.
Okay.
So if I went to do a move and my brother didn't, the money that comes, we shared among the guys I went with, not with the ones who didn't go.
I
you
see.
know. So that's how it was in my
I see.
particular area.
Prince, I'm wondering how you manage to escape, because you have your distinct. If everyone was to identify you, oh, he's got a fair patch on the forehead.
Yeah.
So I mean, how were you able to?
Okay, so what I did, I had to be, because where I was living in the central of a war zone. Because if I walk into my front house, I'm in the E5 postcode. And if I go into my garden, I'm in the E9, which those two are also enemies. And I'm very distinctive. So what I had to do is I had to be cool with the people from E9, cool with the people from E5. All the local gangs in my area, I was the only one who was okay with all of them, so I could walk in all of their territories without any harm coming to me. And one thing we do is we always keep our house a secret,
Wow.
because that's the place you come to. That's where you come and rest your head. So I don't let gang members know where I live or where I'm from, or my real name. That's why we have tag names and stuff like that. So no one knew my name, nobody knew my address. So if you want to come and find me, you can only find me either on my front line in the area that I'm from, but you can't come to my house. So that's how I used to keep myself, you know, safe. And
So even the gang member needed some sanity.
yes.
What was your tag name?
I had a couple given from different guys. One particular group used to call me Stony because I used to use stones a lot. You could be somewhere fun, I can pick up a rock and dash it and bust your head with it.
Wow.
So I stood at those sort of things a lot. Another one was dollars, because I like
The bills.
the money.
Well, I
Yeah,
know if you're
so-
going to risk
Yeah.
if you were going to risk it. I mean, Chris, have you been in prison?
No, actually, fortunately, the time I was supposed to go, that is when God intervened.
Wow.
So that was the moment I was really going down.
We'll get to the intervention
Yeah.
bit. What happened that the prison bit was going? What was the incident? Was it a
Okay.
robbery?
Well, basically, the crew I used to be with, the gang I used to be, they specialize so much on hits, which is basically contracts. You get paid to kill somebody or someone, or you yourself, your personal vendettas, you go and sort them out. And it got to a time that one of the rival gangs actually got to me, and so there's only one way you retaliate when that happens. So you have to get hold of a gun and start hunting the opposition down. And when I was in that mood, when I was ready with a gun and everything, waiting for these guys to appear, that is when the police actually came to the area unannounced. And when that happened,
There's you with your gun.
there's me with my gun, and they chased after everyone that was there. We were about 15 or so. We were just around in a corner, but they focused themselves on me because they saw that I had a backpack. Because normally that's where we carry, the
Stuff.
gun. Yeah, and I got caught, and I was looking at a sentence between, 10 to 25 years, really, depending on how many killings the gun has done previously. Because the guns in this country, they can count the
IDs, yeah.
crimes it's done, and especially the type of people I'm with, it's definitely hit a few people.
Yeah.
So I have to know that the gun is actually going to sentence me for all those crimes it has committed,
Even though it went to you,
even though it's not me.
because
It could have been a friend.
you can't provide.
That's
Yeah.
And so I was really at a point of, there's no more hope. I'm going down. I know I'm going down. And at that time, that's when I was thinking, whoa, all right. I remember when I was young, I used to go to church. They used to talk about Jesus. My mom used to talk about God. Let me try it. Let me see. Let me see if this is real. So I prayed in that cell, and I was saying, you know what, God, if you are real, if you exist, then let me escape this jail term. I know I have a criminal record already. They know me. The police saw me and they laughed. They called me by name because they know me. They know the gang I come from. They came one by one in the cell laughing at me, all the officers in that station, that we've got this guy. So I knew I was going, but I said, you know what, if God, you are real, make a way out. Make a way out. I was supposed to go straight to remand for them to start investigating, checking the fingerprints, checking the cameras, and they postponed it and told me, you know what, we'll grant you bail the next day, and they did. So that's when I started thinking, whoa, is this real? Is God truly, up there? And that's when I got in contact with the prophet of God, Abiyama Pumadan. So
We'll get there. Folks, I told you these stories are amazing. We're going to come back right after the break and hear Prince's side of the story. We're going to go further to find out where they are now, their regrets and everything. This is amazing. Stay put. Well, hello and welcome back. I hope you know where your sons and daughters are by now. If not, take your phones and start calling them and make sure they are where they say they are, because it's just that easy for them to slip. What a story. But let me come to Prince. Have you been to prison?
Yes, I unfortunately,
You were not
went
lucky.
there. Not as lucky as my brother. I actually went into the prison because what happened was I now moved up a level into my gang area where I'm now dealing with the Class A drugs, which is heroin, crack, and sniff. So I was now selling those out of London. So I was making like around £2,000 a day,
Whoa.
sometimes £2,000 within 4 hours.
That's
You know,
tempting,
money-
isn't it?
Money like that. So that's how I was flipping like that, and I got caught one day with about £60 worth of gear, and they took me to the police station, and I knew that definitely how it leads one way to the prison. But unlike my brother here, I didn't think about praying or asking God for anything. I was just saying, okay, let's go. And at that time I remember I was very scared, because you hear the stories of prison from outside, and the stories are not pleasant at all. Outside, if you got a problem with somebody like my brother, I can dodge him. But inside the prison, you can't dodge nobody. 8 o'clock your door opens, so if you're sleeping, they will come in and do what they have to do to you. So it's very, very scary in that particular environment. So I went to the prison, and a lot of things happened there, which now I know that God saved me from a lot of things in there.
Wow.
But at the time, I didn't know it was Him. If I can give you an example,
Yeah.
there was some guy, he was like 3 times the size of me. And he was getting very lippy to me, and I'm a person, if you talk anyhow to me, for some reason I have to retaliate, even though I know you'll beat me. So I retaliated, and this guy told me, you know what, go open your cell right now. I'm going to do you right now. So I went and got the guy to open my cell. As I'm walking to my cell, my legs are shaking because I know that it's not going to be a pleasant end for me. And I opened my cell, and I walked back to the person, and he shook my hand and said, "Hi, you right? How you doing?" So I went along with it. I said, "Yeah, I'm cool. I'm fine." And then I quickly went off my way, and I was like, "Wow, he was actually gonna, like I was gonna get poked up. I was gonna get stabbed up there and then." That's why my cell had to be open, and the guys will come and cover your cell door and play games outside, so the police, the prison guards will think that everything's okay, but not knowing that someone's being done over inside. So that's what was gonna happen to me.
But why did he change his mind?
I don't know. Up to today, it's only God. Now I know it's God, So those are the things that I was going through inside the prison. I had fights, and I stabbed some guys in there. Yeah, I've been through those sort of things. But the first big miracle that came to me was how I got released. In the prison system, when it's time for you to be released, you can become 6 months early on tag.
Okay.
And they came to examine me for tag, and they refused me. I said, "We're not going to give you tag, so you have to serve your sentence." And one of their rules were, if you've been on tag before and you fully complied, then they shouldn't refuse you. So I said, "Wait a minute, I've been on tag before, so you have no right to," and they ignored me. So one night I was in my cell, and that's the first time I prayed. And I said, "God, I wish I can speak in my head, not even invoke in my head. I said, I wish I can speak to the head governor of this prison, which that man, you don't see him. He doesn't walk prison floors. You don't see him." So the next day, 8 p.m. at night, I'm in playing pool in a room, and this guy comes in and walks straight to me and says, "I heard you want to speak to me. How can I help?"
Wow.
So at that time, all the prisoners looked at me like, hey, is this guy a snitch? And a snitch is somebody who you're an informer.
Yeah.
So there's punishments for being an informer. So straight away I said, "Hey, what do you mean?" I quickly sacked him out of the place and said, "Do I know you? Don't come to me, to try and make the guys know that I'm not what they think I am." And then he went, and then something just hit my head and said, "Don't you remember?" So I quickly ran to him and I said, yes, I remember. And I explained the situation, and he said to me, "Okay, I'll see what I can do." That's 8 p.m. The following morning, 8 a.m., they came to my cell and said, "We're releasing you from prison."
with your tag.
Yes, they're going to release
Yeah.
me. And a lot of people listening will be wondering, okay, so what's so special about that? Now, what's special about that is that in prison, if you want to get a blanket to stay warm, you put in an application. It takes 2 weeks to process
Really?
before a blanket will come to your cell for you to be warm. 2 weeks.
Whoa.
8 p.m. offices are closed. Even the tag office outside of prison in the real world is closed. 8 a.m. they are closed. So from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. how did those documents get signed and get released for me to leave prison that morning? It's an impossible thing. It doesn't happen. It's impossible. You know, so that's the work of God right there, and that's how I came out of the prison. You know, and when I came out, you know, I wanted to try, you know, and better my life, but because of my record, nobody was giving me a job. Nobody wanted to give me a chance because you're a convict, you're a criminal, you know, you've been in prison, so we don't want you in our business. So I decided, I said, God, I tried, but now I'm going to go back to the streets full time. And I'm going to go back full time with revenge. So I was carrying anger and hate in me. And at that particular time, I remember very clearly, I was ready to kill you without thinking. Because I've experienced the prison, I know I can handle it. So now there's no barrier again. So I was ready to kill somebody. I was ready.
Whoa.
I told God, I'm now going fully out.
Because I've tried.
I've tried. I'm now going fully. I've now made up my mind that this is what I'm going to do. And then somehow, through some girl, I ended up coming to church, and I met, you know, the prophet Avia Mampamadan. So, and you know, he sat me down and he said, no, listen. There's something better for you. You don't need to give up. And he, you know, what attracted me to him is that when he came to speak to me, he spoke to me as if we're on the same level. Although he's an older man than me, more experienced than me, he came down and spoke as if we're the same, we're equal. Which, when you're a gang member, those are the things you're looking for. If you come and speak down upon one, he will never respect you. And he understood those things, so he came and spoke to me on a level. So I was like, hey, wait, this guy, you know, and he looked so young. Like, this guy's actually cool, you know. He's a cool guy. So that's how I got myself engaged, and then through him, I gave up. Because when I was coming to church, I was still selling my drugs still. Yeah, I was going to church, and I'll go back to my house, and I'll be wrapping the drugs up, and I send it to country. I learnt my lesson. I won't go there and sell, but I'll send a younger one there to do it for me. So that's what I was doing whilst I was in church and smoking. And through his teachings, and he didn't reject me. He didn't see me as a sinner or a bad person or a devil or nothing like that. He just kept teaching me, and this guy will come to me and say, here's money for your weekly travel card to do this. Have you eaten? Every day I'll come, have you eaten? I say, no, I haven't eaten, and go eat, go do this. So there was no reason for me again to sell drugs or to hustle, because this man is taking care of me, so I don't need anything again. So everything ceased.
Wow. Let me come to Chris. Chris,
Yes.
how difficult is it to leave the gang? You know, say, look,
To be honest,
I've had a near miss, I'm going out.
I'll say it's impossible without God.
Wow.
It's impossible, because my brother made a statement earlier. You know, the life you see from the outside is a different world when you get into it. There's a door that opens itself to you, but there's no open door for you to walk out. It's a choice that you make for life. You actually sit down. I remember those times the elders, they will sit you down and ask you, do you really want to do this? When you are young and you're coming up, they will ask you, do you really want to do
You're
this?
like, yeah, I'm
You're
all
like,
for
yeah,
it.
you know, you've seen them with cars, you've seen them with chains, you've seen them being chased by all the girls they want, you know, and you think, all right, I want this sort of life. But when you want to step out, you have to understand you're like a database of all the information of that gang. You know their hideouts, you know the things they've done. Yeah, I mean, most of my friends even were on the run because they've killed certain people, and police are actually looking for them. So you that is walking out of the gang, knowing that George has done that, he lives on this road, this gang, this is where they keep their guns, this is who they get their drugs from, this is what they are
You're not
planning
going to
to
walk
do.
away with that
You
information.
can't walk away with that information. So when you leave, your life is at stake. The people I used to be with, if they can't find you, they get your family. They'll find your mom, they'll find your brothers.
Whoa.
If they can't find your family, they'll find your friends. Anyone that is connected to you is a target. So when I decided to leave, it was the hardest decision of my life because I knew that it came with a risk. So I was even contemplating of should I leave the country, and but I was thinking if I leave the country, my family is still here and they'll go for my family, so there's no need for that. So let me stay
Battle it out.
and battle it out. And like I said, the time I was now, deciding to give God a shot, that's when I met the prophet of God, Aviam
Mhm,
Pumada. So,
mhm.
and that's when he started talking to me that, you know what, don't be afraid, don't be worried. God is going to sort out everything. And he started taking me as his own son, which I was like, what's happening here? Does this man know who I am, where I'm coming from? Does he know that even taking me in and them knowing I come to his church, he can also have a problem? Because the time I started, I was even expecting them maybe if they got to know this is a church I go to, they can come there.
Mhm.
I got phone calls saying, where are you? Where are you? You're trying to hide behind God. You're going to snitch, isn't it? You're going to tell on us. You're talking with the police. And I was like, no, my brothers, it's not like that. It's not like that. I've now changed. I want to serve God. I can't serve God and do the things that you guys still do. And they were totally against it.
Whoa.
Totally against it. But as I'm speaking to you now, since the prophet of God actually took me as a son and nurtured me, I mean, now I'm a pastor, as
Yes.
you mentioned. So from somebody who in society would have never made it, the two options I would have had was to either end up in prison or to die before the age of 30. If you make it past 30, where we come from, it's a blessing.
Big
Long
time.
life.
Yeah, that's why you get the respect of the whole area, because you've grinded, you've lived
Yeah.
30 years.
30.
In that life, you've really lived. You've made it.
Made it big time.
So that's why I don't know how to put it into words, but to be honest, somebody walking out of it is a big decision to make, and you cannot without God.
How attractive is it though? I mean, how? Because you say all the scary parts. So is it not scary enough not to want to join?
You see, at the time of joining, you don't see
You
the
don't
scary.
see it.
You only see the flashy things.
Yeah.
You don't see what happens behind the scenes. You only
Yeah.
see the cars, the girls, the money. That's all you see. But when you get involved, then you find out how the girls come,
Yeah.
how the money comes,
Yeah.
the commitment you need to make, the things that actually happen, the work that goes in. That's when you see it. And at that time you see those things, you can't say, I've now seen what you guys do, so I don't want to
So
be
I
a
don't
part
want
no
it
more.
anymore.
No, it don't work like that.
Yeah.
It don't
Is
work
there
like
an
that.
initiation you will go to, or is just the test and see the
Well,
waters before you?
Is-
For my people, I mean, what they don't, open up to you straight away.
Mhm.
Okay.
They don't. They see how you behave, how you
Yeah.
walk for a while.
Tests.
They do test you. I know it's until the end that I was even trusted with the knowledge of that they kill people and who they've killed and how they get paid for it. It was towards the end of the time I was with them.
Mhm.
So there are certain things they don't tell you now. They test you with little
Yeah.
and see how far you go with it. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's a secret society in a way,
Yes.
because it's a world that many people do not see.
Mhm.
A lot of things happen, and I would say that a lot of people actually have seen the negative,
Mhm.
but they can't come out.
Yeah, they can't.
They can't.
Once you're in there, you can't come out.
They
at
feel
all,
to, but they can't.
Yeah.
Folks, you're going to come back and find out what have been the regrets and what's going to be the way forward. And indeed, how then do you coerce and try and talk people out of it? Because now they've seen and they're a walking database. How do you talk people out of this? Particularly, your sons and daughters who are at home now, who are equally at risk. Stay tuned, we're coming back. Well, hello and welcome back. Just having a chat in the back of the house. Why not? I might as well use the space. But you've heard the stories. I want to find out if my newfound brothers have any regrets, or to them, you know what, it was a life led and I learned my experience from it, and so, why not? But actually, before I do that, now I know that Prince got saved by, was going to chase a woman. The woman says, well, you have to come to church with me, and then he got saved. But Chris, how did you bump into the prophet?
Okay, it was my mom.
Okay.
As I mentioned a little, she always used to be a prayerful woman and served God ever since she came to England. So the moment I was now thinking I need help, I need God, she was fellowshipping at God Solution Center. So I decided to follow her. I remember it was an all-night service, and the time I got there, the prophet just spoke into my life, and he was telling me everything I was doing, and he even told me of what I will become if I'm able to make a decision and focus on God. And today I am that thing he spoke of. So
That's the Chris.
that's the miracle of God. So I came to meet him through my mom, by her inviting me to church there.
I mean, people who knew you before,
Yeah.
I mean, if they see you on TV preaching or they see you at church, I mean, what's their reaction?
To be honest, people are confused. I think even my parent, my mom doesn't understand how it happened, because it was such a shock, such a contrast. You can imagine that every so often police will come to my house, searching the place, coming at random times. We've arrested your son for this, we've arrested your son for that. And then overnight, the same son is saying, I want to go to church. Now he's sold out for God.
Wow.
Now he's one of the pastors of the church you invited him to. So it's a big opposite. And it's a privilege. I'll say it didn't come from nowhere though. And that's one thing I always have to mention, because somebody had to put his life down. Somebody had to pick somebody who was nothing and make something out of him. Yes, God does wondrous things, but he must use somebody, and that person is the person I call a father today, and that is the prophet of God, barima.asare. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
I think so. You can't take such a thing for granted. But Prince, do you have any regrets? Or like I said, it was a life I led. I've built experience, and therefore, let's carry on with it.
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't regret anything I did at those times, because the things I went through and the things I've done is now benefiting me now. I meet people in those same situations, those same circumstances, where I can now relate to them and speak to them about it. And it's not like I'm speaking to them about a story I've heard. It's something I've lived and done. So when I'm speaking to such a person, they can relate to me just how Daddy related to me when he spoke to me. I can now do the same to others, whereby if I didn't go through that situation or those tasks or those hard times, right now, I will not be able to help somebody else in need. And it's through those circumstances that God enabled me to meet Daddy and for me to be in his life at this time. So I thank God for everything that I went through, for that's what's brought me to where I am today, and it's helping me in my life at this particular time.
On that note, it brings me to also how we serve God, because if we could be in that mood for things that were leading us to destruction, how much more now that we found peace, now that we found a genuine cause to die for, a genuine cause to strive to make that name to be popular. In the street life, the regrets, I will say that maybe I should have been able to cause more people problems when I was there. Why I say that is this: because anyone that remembers me of that time, that sees me today, cannot deny the existence of God, because they knew who I was. So now certain friends, those who are not in prison but those who are outside, have changed. Some of them are now doing gospel music.
Wow.
Some of them, recently, one of them called me and said, you know what, we've changed as well. Just to let me know that they are part of what I'm doing.
Don't think you're there alone.
That's it. So we've changed as well. I said, oh wow, that's brilliant. We praise God. And they're like, yeah, you know, to be honest, your story was something that motivated us because we knew how bad you were. So if you could change, how much more us? So I would say that I wish more people would have seen my badness in those days, because now it would have let them know there is a God.
I mean, do your church members know your testimony?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But I don't think they realize the extent of it. Because as you said, many people tell me they do not see that in me at this time.
No.
It's very hard for somebody to see that I'm somebody that could have put a knife to your mom, which I could have in those days. I was, ruthless. I didn't have any conscience of I'm doing evil. It was the norm. And at this time, for me to tell people my story, it's a bit, are you sure? What is he saying? Is it true? Is he sure of what he's saying? To be honest, that's the biggest testimony for me. Because for you to tell me you do not see the life I used to live, and now you see me as a person that cannot do those things, makes me know that the work my spiritual father has done through God has worked.
That's work. What are you doing now, Prince?
Now, through the man of God, I've now gone to, because in my former life, I didn't have any qualifications or anything like that. And through Daddy, because when I first came, he taught me media, how to operate cameras, how to do interviews. He taught me everything about media, every single aspect of it. And through his teachings, without school qualifications, I went to university and I got a bachelor's honours degree in film production, which I'm sure you know that you can't go to university unless you have at least A-levels or some sort of GCSEs, which I don't have. When I went to the place and I showed them my show reel, which is the work that Daddy taught me, they said, listen, please, this work is above A-levels. So because of this work, we're going to accept you and take you onto the course. So that's something I've gained since I've been with him. And also I'm now a manager of a company which I'm running, AYN Cleaning.
Of course.
So I'm now running that particular organization at this particular time. And also I'm now in training to reach where my brother is.
But, I mean, isn't it boring? I mean, $2,000, a day or £2,000 a day, fast cars. And that must be
right now,
exciting.
Right now, I'm driving legit fast cars than I have before. At least now I can drive my fast car and the police can't come and take it from me. Yeah. At least right now the money's in my bank account, they can't come and seize it. Whereas when you're on the streets, you always have to transfer money here from different countries. It's all complicated. Now everything is just,
no peace.
My mind is at peace. I can walk from here to wherever I want to go and know that no one is going to stab me. Everything is just beautiful. Everything is beautiful. Definitely you remember the times, there were some fun times, some bad times you had in those times. But to be honest with you, I really appreciate the life that I have now, and the family that I now have, because the Prophet, he took me in as his son, and I now live with him, and he's now my
Let me start with Chris. Did you have a father figure absent in your life?
Yes, actually, my father left when I was 4 years old. So I grew up with just my mother, and even that in those times, she also left for a while. So I stayed with my grandparents for some time. So the father figure was really absent, and that's what really made me connected to the spiritual father I have now. Because there are certain lessons I think I would have got from a father if there was one present, and maybe I would have not ended up on the streets the way I did. So I would say it's one of the fundamentals, not even just a father, but having a mentor.
How old were you when you started?
I went to Ghana?
Yeah.
Okay, it started quite early though. I think I was in school, so by 15.
Wow.
By 15, and in that few years I was there, I really did justice to it. Yeah, because
it's the same for me. I'm telling you.
Father figure
It's the
missing?
same for me. In my house, I live with both mother and both and father.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, there was no unity, there was no family in the house.
Discipline.
Like with my father, I never ever had a relationship with my father.
Him, yeah.
I lived with him, but there was never a relationship with me and my father. It was like a bunch of strangers living together because we happened to be together. There was no bond, there was no connection. My dad, when I was young, he was in and out of prison. And my mum would tell us that he's going to Jamaica for holiday, whereas he's in a prison cell. So he was in and out of prison all the time. And my mum too, she was struggling. They smokes a lot. My dad was a drug dealer, doing all those sort of things. So my father was somebody who I never saw him as a father. I saw him as someone I should fear and be this man. I just should be scared of him, and that's it. If he calls me, that's when I should go to him. If he doesn't call me, then I shouldn't go to him. That's how it was. So those times as a child, I was desiring for a new family. That was my prayer as a young child. So God, please give me a new family and a father who's a pastor.
Are your parents probably a bit upset that, well, now you sort of got a new dad and you're more clingy to them?
Yes,
than
they are, and which I don't understand why they are upset, because how my life is now is 100,000 times better than it was when I was with them, and they wasn't doing anything for me or anything to better my life. They can, right now they call daddy up and speak insult words, abusive words. My grandparents can call up and insult him. Why isn't our son coming home and all that rubbish? But I asked myself a question: when I was in prison, did you call the prison guards and ask why isn't my son coming home? Did you call them and insult them when they kept me there in bondage? I'm in a place now with my own free will, doing what I want to do. So they don't understand, which I pray that one day they will. But it's the main thing is that I'm now in a family which I've always desired to have. A family where I feel accepted.
Have you had a heart to heart with mom? Sit her down.
I've had a heart to heart with my mom and sat down and said, listen, this is the point, and explain to her in depth and in detail what's happening and what's going on. This is what I'm doing. My mom knew from childhood the things I was going through and struggling as a child in the house. She was someone who I was to speak to and confide in. So I tell her, listen, these things I've told you many times, so why are you so shocked? Before I left the house, I made her to know I'm going somewhere. So why are you allowing these things to come up and get the better of you? People are talking and you're allowing it to confuse you. Stop it. It's not right. I have chosen my family. This is my family. You either accept it or you don't accept it. If you don't accept it, that's fine. You go your way, I go my way. But this is my mother, this is my father, my brothers and my sisters. Give them the respect that they need and don't insult them.
I mean, as your mom probably giving you a reason why she wasn't able to give you the family that you desired?
In my house, my mom had no voice. She had no voice. There was nothing within her control or her power over us, the children. Everything the man says is what happens. She there speaks, So she was struggling in her own rights and in her own sort of way.
Is there any relationship now between you and her? Or?
Sometimes she comes to the church and I see her. But right now, I've made up in my mind that this is what I want to do. This is my own family. This is how I want to walk. If you want to be a part of it, then you have a decision to make. This is what I'm doing.
Try and woo her more into Christianity?
I've spoken to him about when I was there, because that's where I was living when I first came to church. I always speak about God, but they wouldn't listen. They were saying God doesn't exist, and all these negative things they were saying. So I said, okay, at least I've done my work. I've tried to tell you about God, the things He's doing, how He's transformed my life. Even the day I came out of prison, she cried, because they called her and said, your son is not coming out until another 6 months. The next day I came, and I'm ringing doorbell. So you experience all these sort of things, how I stopped smoking, how I stopped selling the drugs. You was there to see those sort of miracles take place and and take form. University, that I had no qualifications. How can I get there? You know all these things, but I don't know why human beings, they're very strange people, you know.
Wow. But to the contrary, your mom is excited.
Oh yes, she's she gets now the praise, which
She's probably scared she'll wake up from a dream.
yes, I think the first few years it was like that. Yes, but now that it's been 8 years now, so
Wow.
it's proof to her that it's permanent. But a lot of people come to her, we thank God that what has happened to your son, you must be proud. So she gets that. But one thing she always tells people is when they tell her, for instance, oh, I wish my son was like yours. He says, are you willing to go through what I went through?
Are you willing to go through what they went through, folks? I told you to call your sons and daughters to sit by the telly, because by the time this interview is through, 1 or 2 people will be changed. We started an amazing story. Name is Nana Ansakwa, PM Express London Edition. As I promised you, every interview is going to be intriguing. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again.